In the final years of World War II, the night skies over Europe belonged to the Luftwaffe. German pilots flew with an air of dominance, using the cover of darkness to strike at bombers and slip away before radar or searchlights could find them. But then, an unfamiliar silhouette began to cut through the clouds, sleek, dark, and menacing. The P-61 Black Widow had arrived. It wasn't just another Allied aircraft. It was America's first purpose-built night fighter, a machine designed to hunt in the darkness and bring fear to pilots who once believed the night sky was theirs. The Black Widow was massive for a fighter, twin-engine and heavily armed, with a strange spider-like shape that seemed to unsettle those who caught sight of it. German crews whispered about it before they ever saw it. Stories circulated. An American plane that could see in the dark, that tracked you no matter where you turned. It sounded like myth, but the reality was worse. Its onboard radar allowed the Black Widow to locate enemy aircraft even when the night was pitch black. For German pilots who thought shadows kept them safe, this was the end of comfort. What stunned them most wasn't only the aircraft's size or radar, but its speed and firepower. 4 20mm cannons and 4 50-caliber machine guns meant that once the P-61 locked onto a target, escape was unlikely. Pilots accustomed to slipping away with daring maneuvers suddenly found themselves cornered, lit up in the gun sights of a predator they never saw coming. Midway through 1944, the Black Widow entered combat, and word spread fast. Those who survived spoke of how it seemed to appear from nowhere, how one moment the sky was quiet, and the next, shells were tearing into their fuselage. Fear began to creep into Luftwaffe squadrons, not during the day, but at night, when their confidence once soared. And before we dive deeper into the story of how the P-61 reshaped the air war, don't forget, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and share it with others who love uncovering forgotten chapters of history. Because the Black Widow wasn't just another plane. It was a symbol of a new kind of warfare. Technology and innovation had caught up with the shadows, and for the first time, German pilots realized the night no longer offered safety. It had become a hunting ground, and they were the prey. The P-61 Black Widow didn't come from chance. It was born from a desperate need. In the early 1940s, the Allies faced a nightmare. German bombers were slipping through defenses at night, striking cities and bases with devastating effect. Conventional fighters, designed for daylight combat, were nearly useless in the dark. The United States recognized this vulnerability and took a bold step. They would design a fighter specifically for night hunting. The result was the P-61, a revolutionary aircraft unlike anything seen before. What set it apart was its integrated radar system. For the first time, a fighter carried its own eyes in the dark. Mounted in the nose, this radar allowed the crew to detect incoming enemy planes miles away, track their movements, and close in for the kill even when visibility was near zero. This wasn't just an aircraft, it was a flying sensor, a machine built to stalk prey that believed it was hidden. German pilots had long relied on the dark as an ally. Now, that ally had betrayed them. The Widow's design reflected its mission. Twin booms supported its engines and tail, giving it a menacing, almost alien profile. Its crew of 3, a pilot, radar operator, and gunner, worked as one, turning the plane into a hunting team. Each role mattered. The radar operator guided the pursuit, the pilot maneuvered with precision, and the gunner unleashed devastating firepower. Together, they became a coordinated machine that could dismantle an enemy squadron piece by piece. But perhaps what shocked German pilots most was its sheer size. The P-61 was one of the largest fighters ever built, yet it moved with alarming speed. Weighing more than many bombers, it still outpaced enemy interceptors in the night sky. This contradiction, the bulk of a heavy aircraft combined with the agility of a predator, made it unpredictable. The first combat missions revealed its true potential. German pilots who thought they were safe after daylight ended suddenly found themselves hunted. Some never even realized what had destroyed them. Survivors spoke of glowing tracer fire ripping through the night, of engines exploding before they could react. Rumors spread quickly through Luftwaffe ranks, and with each encounter, the legend of the Black Widow grew darker. The creation of this aircraft marked a turning point. No longer were the Allies reacting blindly to night raids. Now, they could strike back with precision. And for the first time, German airmen understood that the night, once their kingdom, had been invaded by an enemy they could neither see nor predict. The first time German pilots met the P-61 Black Widow in the skies, they weren't sure what to make of it. From a distance, its bulky frame didn't look threatening. Some mistook it for a bomber, assuming it was a slow-moving target they could dive upon and destroy. But within moments, those assumptions shattered. As they closed in, the Widow would suddenly turn, accelerate, and unleash a storm of firepower that left little room for escape. This was no lumbering bomber. It was a hunter disguised as prey. For Luftwaffe crews, the shock wasn't only in the Widow's presence, but in how it fought. German pilots were trained to rely on vision, to use their sharp eyes and night-honed instincts. But this new adversary didn't play by those rules. The P-61's radar guided its moves, meaning the crew didn't have to see their enemy to track them. They knew where their targets were long before the Germans suspected danger. For the first time, pilots who felt invisible in the night realized they were being watched, followed, and locked onto by unseen eyes. The Black Widow's firepower completed the nightmare. With its combination of 50-caliber machine guns and 20mm cannons, it delivered devastating strikes in seconds. A single burst could tear through a fighter or bomber, leaving little chance of survival. Reports spread of entire formations being ambushed at night, their lead planes destroyed before warning could be shouted across the radios. By the time survivors understood what had happened, the Widow was already circling for another pass. Adding to the confusion was the Widow's unique shape. Against the moonlight, its twin booms and wide wingspan looked alien, as though the Allies had deployed some experimental beast. Pilots described it as a phantom, a machine that didn't belong in the sky. The more they encountered it, the stronger the sense of dread grew. These first encounters sent a message louder than any propaganda. The Luftwaffe had lost its monopoly on the night. The battlefield had shifted, and what once was their sanctuary had turned into their trap. For German pilots, the realization was devastating. The darkness no longer hid them, it betrayed them. As the Black Widow's reputation spread, fear began to replace confidence among German night fighter crews. Pilots who once trusted the darkness to cloak their movements now found themselves second-guessing every shadow, every flicker of light. The sense of safety that had defined night operations was shattered. It wasn't just the firepower of the P-61, it was the knowledge that the Widow could find them anywhere at any time, without warning. The psychological impact was enormous. Luftwaffe pilots began describing night missions with words like haunted and hunted. They no longer felt like predators, but prey waiting to be caught. Even the most experienced aces admitted the stress of flying under constant threat from an unseen enemy. Missions that once seemed routine now carried an edge of dread. Crews would glance nervously into the darkness, wondering if the next spark in the sky would be tracer rounds streaking toward them. The Widow's three-man crew intensified this advantage. While a lone German pilot strained his eyes against the blackness, the P-61 had a team working in unison: pilot, radar operator, and gunner. Each role gave the aircraft an unmatched edge in combat. The radar operator calmly guided the chase, the pilot executed precise maneuvers, and the gunner waited for the perfect shot. Against such coordination, solo Luftwaffe fighters stood little chance. Even the planes built to counter night raids struggled. German twin-engine night fighters like the WWII and Bf-110 were competent in their own right, but against the Widow, they found themselves outpaced and outgunned. What was once a duel of equals turned into a lopsided contest. Survivors told chilling stories of sudden ambushes, engines igniting in bursts of flame, and comrades vanishing into the night. The sheer size of the P-61 also added to its legend. At over 45 feet long, with a wingspan of 66 feet, it dwarfed most fighters. Yet its agility defied its bulk. For German pilots, the sight of such a massive machine twisting and climbing with predatory grace was deeply unsettling. It broke the rules of what they thought possible. As losses mounted, Luftwaffe commanders searched for countermeasures. But technology and resources were already strained thin. There was no simple answer to the Widow. Each failed attempt to contain it only deepened the sense of inevitability. The Germans were not just losing battles in the sky, they were losing the psychological war of the night. And the P-61 was the reason. When the war drew to its close, the P-61 Black Widow had carved its legend across the night skies of Europe and the Pacific. More than just another aircraft, it represented a turning point in aerial warfare, a machine designed not for daylight dominance, but for mastery of darkness. Its radar system, its firepower, and its unique role as a true night fighter set it apart from anything that had come before. For German pilots, its sudden arrival had been a shock. For Allied crews, it was a symbol of technological progress catching up to the enemy's most elusive tactics. The Widow's versatility stretched far beyond interceptions. It flew escort for bombers, disrupted supply routes, and even hunted V-1 flying bombs streaking toward England. Its design allowed it to adapt, and that adaptability guaranteed its relevance until the war's final days. Mission reports show it flying deep into enemy territory, eliminating targets thought unreachable after sunset. With each successful mission, its reputation grew. For the Allies, the Black Widow was a trusted guardian. For the Axis, it was a reminder that nowhere was safe, not even in the shelter of the night. Post-war reflections highlight just how radical the P-61 truly was. Engineers studying its radar called it the forerunner of the digital systems that would define the Cold War. Its heavy armament inspired future interceptors, and its ability to coordinate a three-man crew in high-speed, high-stakes combat became a model for multi-crew aircraft designs that followed. The Widow may not have been built in the same numbers as the P-51 Mustang or the B-17, but its impact was no less significant. Veterans who flew it often described a bond unlike any other. The Widow was demanding, but it rewarded skill with unmatched dominance. Crews spoke of nights when they felt invisible, invincible, and unstoppable. And decades later, historians would point to the Widow as proof that innovation often thrives under pressure. It was born from necessity, forged in secrecy, and perfected in combat. By war's end, German diaries captured the lingering fear. The mere rumor of a Widow overhead could alter flight plans and disrupt operations. That alone speaks to its power, not just as a weapon, but as a psychological force. Today, the surviving P-61s displayed in museums stand as silent giants, their black fuselages still intimidating under dim light. They are reminders of a time when technology turned the tide, when the night itself became a battlefield, and when one aircraft forced even the most confident German pilots to look over their shoulders.